Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take roll. Alec.
Here.
Yeah, when I call your name, please unmute yourself so I can hear you. I want to hear you. Austin. Jose Cornejo. Just got here. Right on, Jose. So I'm counting you here, Jose. Okay? You're here.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You
Okay.
And Noel. Yeah, Noel. Noel, you here? Noel Cuevas? Shoot. These guys are wandering. I know they will. Donna. Victor Gallegos. Does anyone know Victor Gallegos?
Nope.
Okay. Someone I'm sure does. None of you guys do. Does anyone know Enrique Gregorio? I've called these guys, emailed them, left them messages. Eric Mendez.
Here.
Thank you, Eric. And Eric, did you email me today? You did, didn't you? Was it today? I know John did, and I know Art did. Where the hell is Art? God damn it.
Today? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it might not have been today. I've done so much with this stupid phone. I think I was putting people's names with numbers because when it downloaded I have 2,600 contacts in my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, 2,600 contacts and
Are
something
you a celebrity or something?
like 6,000 pictures. Say again?
Are you a celebrity or something? 2,600 contacts?
Duh. Of course I am. Okay, let's see. Art. Art swore he'd be here. He sent me some.
Do you mean Arthur or Art?
Well, Arthur.
He's working in Santa Barbara. Somebody just gets home a little bit late. There he is, right there.
Art. I was hoping you'd show up. Art, see my big phone?
I made it.
Yeah, good work, Arthur. I want to talk. I got to make a note because I want to. I don't know if I can bring up the pictures you sent me. I might be able to, but probably not. Arts cabinet. I just want to talk about that cabinet. Do you have any pictures with you? Some on your phone, I bet, right? Okay, because I got you down here. I want to see if you can show some of those pics. I want to talk a little bit about that. But in the meantime, we're getting through roll. So where is Art? Arthur Nelson here. Did Enrique Gregorio or Victor Gallegos or Donna come in? Or Noel? Noel, did you come in? Okay. How about Brandon Pasgallo? I saw you, didn't I? Brandon? I swear I did. Yeah. Brandon?
Right here.
Can you video yourself?
Yes, I can.
There you go. There you go. That makes me think you're really here. John Sesser?
Here.
Michael Silva?
Here.
Michael comes to us from Sacramento. Hey, is it hot in Sacramento?
Right now it's like, today was low hundreds. Really smoky though. There was another fire like 20 miles north of my house. Bad one. They had evacuation warnings.
It was insanely hot here.
Yeah, no, it's.
Last night it was 100 degrees.
I think the last like 4 or 5 days was 100.
Jose Silva Nunez, that's you right there, huh?
Yeah.
James Stevens? Wait, yeah, James Stevens? Where the hell is James Stevens? Or where the heck is James Stevens? Okay, Vinny Vasquez, does anybody know Vinny Vasquez? And Braun, did you make it? Braun? That's 3 in a row, Bron. And Ryder, did you come, Ryder? Ryder. Okay. So let me just tell you something that I may not have told you before. And I may have. And if I'm repeating myself, suck it up and listen. Anyway. So raise your hand, because I can see everybody here now in this class of 8, if you would like to get a good grade in this class. A good grade, right? Like Brandon, you too, right? Okay. And everybody's here for a grade. Nobody's has asked for a pass, no pass, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, I mean, that's kind of a dar. You want to get it. You want to get a good grade for the class. So I'm going to tell you, even if I've told you before, how you get a good grade for this class. Well, first of all, let me just work backwards. Here's how you don't get a good grade. I'm not going to give you a bunch of quizzes and stuff. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to be evaluating you and your participation based on you answering quiz questions. I might, if I get it together, throw a quiz at you based on the book. And we're going to do a little book work tonight, just some reading, a little bit. Your midterm exam, which is 50 questions, it'll be worth 100 points. Well, actually 20 points, but 50 questions at 2 points each based on 100. You know, I gave it to you in the syllabus, how that, your overall grade is just exactly how I grade the tests too. And the final is also a 50 question, 2 points each, you know, 100 possible points to get 20 to make up your entire grade, to get 20%. So your grade is made up of 5 things, 5 20% items. 20% for the midterm and 20% for the final. That's a DAR, right? That's 40%. So for instance, let's say you got 90% on your midterm. You would get 18 points for that. You get it? You got it? 90%? 90% of 20 is 18. If you got 70%, you'd get 14. Same thing with the final. So those are the 2 things you got to be here for, and you got to do the work, and you hopefully were here, or at least went back and saw some stuff if you weren't here, so you can answer the questions that I'm going to have on those tests for you, and you can get a good grade on those guys, which will contribute overall to your grade. The other 60% is basically based on attendance. Now, technically, I can't include attendance to evaluate you, but really, I have to, because the other 2 are participation and attitude. And I have no idea what your attitude is, and you cannot participate if you're not here. So if you're here, that is, if I see your image on my video the whole time, and it looks like when I look at you, you're paying attention, you got 100% on the attendance, and you got 100% on the participation. So really, by being here, so if you're here 15 out of 15 classes, I think we have 15, or do we have 16? I can't remember if we have 16 or 15. I got it down somewhere, because I know Thanksgiving's a bye. But if you're here for every class and you're paying attention, you just got 60%. So you could literally not take the final, or just be here and not answer any questions, and turn in a blank sheet on your test and get a big fat 0, and do that on your midterm as well, and you could pass the class with a D-. It's not a very good grade. So if you're here, you might as well take the test anyway, right? And if you're here, you've been listening. So showing up, and in life, showing up.
Hey, Rod.
Yeah.
I get that extra credit though, right?
Jose?
Yeah.
Oh, you kidding me?
Yeah.
Jose that helped me vacuum that day?
Yeah.
That Jose? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, 20%, or what do I get? 10%?
I'm not going to broadcast it, but believe me, I will take care of you. You're going to get, I'll just give you a hint. It's like, you know, if you're looking at like 86, 87%, all of a sudden you're going to be, that's a solid B. You're going to jump up into A. Okay?
All right.
You're.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jose, I will take care of you, man. And I'm gonna make a note to myself too. Take care of Jose.
I could go next week too if you want.
Jose Cornell. Yeah, I tell you, man, if you're, you know, if you show up and you pay attention, you'll do well. And so far, this cadre of guys, you can all see yourselves too because you're all on laptops. Nobody's on a phone. You guys are the kind of the core group here that show up. I'm surprised. Yeah, Noel should be here. Donna, come on, Donna. Victor missed the last 2 weeks. Enrique, I don't know what's his story. James Stevens, Vinny, Gone with the Wind, and Braun. The fighters should show up, but you guys are going to do great. Just keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep asking questions. Just be involved, and you're going to do great in this class you'll do great in life. This is just another metaphor for life, just like everything is. Everything's a metaphor for your life. Everything you do. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Did you know that? Think about it. You know, the people that do stuff half-assed, they do everything half-assed. It's kind of like my philosophy about flakes, because I've hired and interviewed and fired hundreds of people in my career. And I'm always looking for the flake. Because if you get a complete flake, they'll do it again. And I mean a complete flake. That's no phone call, no nothing, like just disappear. So like you're expecting them on a job at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever, and they not only don't show up, but they're incognito and incommunicado for the whole day, and they don't ever call or anything. And then at the end of it, a day or two later or whatever, they have a pretty weak excuse. Even if it's a really good excuse. There's no excuse for a complete flake. And it's been my experience that if someone flakes on you, they'll flake again. And that's, you know, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect. Nobody is. You know, some stuff you just can't make. You say you're going to do stuff, you make a commitment, but you can't make it for something comes up, something really important comes up. You just got to communicate it, right? Just like I asked you to do. I got everybody to agree to commit to coming to this class and to commit to letting me know if you couldn't. So a bunch of people just messed up bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people messed up really bad. I mean, messed up to the point where, you know, if they show up now or in the ensuing classes, the classes we have left, and we have plenty of classes left, they'll do fine. You know, they'll do fine. They'll get to make up for it. But okay, there's Austin. Good. Austin, better late than never, Austin. Glad you're here.
Hey there. Yeah, sorry about being late.
That's okay. And I appreciate your apology too. So I'm feeling pretty loquacious tonight, and I got a big list of stuff to do for you. I'm going to trim out this door. I pulled off the casing and de-nailed it. I got to re-drywall that wall, but I got some casing, and together, well, you guys are going to watch me trim out that door. That door right there, the one with the casing off of it. It's to the right of the window. Yeah, we're going to trim that out. It'll be fun. And we're going to trim it out the way I trim out, not the way that guy trimmed out. Now, there's nothing wrong with the way that finished carpenter that we watched, that long video, that 33-minute video last week. There's nothing wrong with the way that guy's chops are down. I wouldn't really critique his way of doing it. I just do it differently. And I'm going to show you how I do it later. Okay, who's coming in? Eric, Austin came in. Jose, John. Nobody new came in. What was I talking about? Somebody help me here. Roll call, business cards.
You're gonna trim that door.
Yeah. Before that, but anyway. So. Go ahead. Yeah, if you guys see anybody show up, speak up, okay? Chime in and say, hey, so and so speak up, because otherwise I won't know they're here. I'll look in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and pin video me. All right, there we go. Who can tell me what kind of wood this is? No guesses?
If I had a really bad guess, maybe ash, but it's hard to see.
Yeah, no, ash is not a bad guess. It's not a particularly good guess either, because ash is highly figured. It's highly cathedral figured. You know, it's got cathedral figure, like oak is really renowned for its cathedral figure, and it's really white, super white. This is
This looked super white in the video, not
is it really? Yeah, for me,
except for the live edge. Yeah, for me, maybe it's the color of my computer.
it's kind of greeny brown, like almost a poplar green, but it's really hard, and it's local olive wood, and it's got this beautiful browns in here too. So this friend of mine, Peter Kornbluth, lost his house in the Tea Fire, and we did all his cabinets, and we built all his doors out of hickory jams and cherry doors, and we built all the cabinets, and we were going to build them all out of cherry. So I had the contract way before it ever got started, and then when it came time, we was going to start maybe taking fabrication measurements and doing some working drawings. Peter asked me if I thought it would be even feasible to use some of the wood that he's harvested from the fire. So the fire burned 64 110-year-old olive trees, and he got about 64 trunks, no more than 5 feet tall and no more than 10 inches in diameter. And they're not, straight logs either. So as a cabinet maker, as a commercial cabinet maker, my first and instant reaction was absolutely not. No way. No way. No way. I don't want to have to mill your wood and have to dry it, and the checks and all that stuff. I want to buy S2S lumber, surface 2 sides, SLR 1E, straight line ripped 1 edge. That's what I want to buy, and solid stock. And then for the casework, for the plywoods, I'm going to use prefin maple. For the glass cabinets, we'll buy a cherry ply, maybe a nice cherry on a classic core or an MDF core. By the way, so there's solid stock, and there's plywood, right? Plywood and solid stock. And I'm going to talk about these in just a second. But back to this solid stock, which is 5/4, I think this is about 5/4 net, which is how we roughed it out. But I didn't want to do it. It didn't appeal to me, the idea of it, but I said, go ahead, Pete, and bring a log to the shop. He came, after hours, everybody was gone, and I pulled out a bandsaw resaw, and we fired it up, adjusted it, fired it up, and we sliced off a piece. I don't think it was this particular piece, it might have been, but we both looked at the piece I sliced off and looked at the grain and the color, and it was just like, how can we not use this wood? So we did. We used that wood, and we milled up all that stock with a big 3 1/4 Hitachi resaw, 3 1/4. It's like a 3 1/4 wide bandsaw with carbide teeth. We pushed it through and resawed it to 1 1/4 rough. We stickered it all, so we stacked it with stickers in between so air could get around it. We air dried it for about 2 months, and then we built a solar kiln heated by the sun and put all this stickered wood, re-stickered it in this solar kiln, in this giant shed we built, and we let it dry to about 8% moisture content, which is where the ambient moisture content in wood should get to for this region. And then we took it back to the shop and we surfaced it and finish milled it down to I think 4/4 net. I'm pretty sure this is 5/4 S2S. And as you all remember, that 5/4 S2S is what net. How thick actually is a piece of wood 5/4 S2S?
1 inch.
Exactly. Who said that? Alec?
Yeah.
Thank you, Alec. Yeah, it's 1 inch. So 5/4 S2S, surface two sides, and this is not straight line rip, no SLR1E, right? These are just rough edges. 5/4 nets at 1 inch, and that's what we wanted. We wanted 5/4 to net at 1. We wanted some thickness to make these doors, because we're going to laminate a bunch of relatively small. We didn't get very wide boards. We're going to laminate a lot of boards, and we wanted them to stay together, and we wanted them to be thick enough so they wouldn't cup. So we made it in 4/4 net, and we made this whole kitchen. So if you go on Nut Construction and look at the corn booth kitchen, you see these cabinets. You see, I think I'd mentioned, I've shown you guys the pictures, but all the cabinets in this house were olive wood. So solid stuff, oak, maple. You're never gonna see olive wood commercially available, but you're going to see a lot of red oak, white oak, maple, birch, cherry, walnut, fir as well, clear fir, VGDF, which is vertical grain duck fir. You will see that in dimensional lumber, but you'll see that as a hardwood lumber and the designation, the quarter designation. So when we talk about the quarter designation, we're talking about solid stock and more cabinet woods and not 2x4s, etc. More of the work that finished carpenters and cabinet makers are going to use. So 8/4 S2S is 1 3/4 net. So 8/4 in the rough, not S2S, but rough, is at 2 inches. S2S, surface two sides, 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch off each side makes it 1 3/4 net. 6/4 S2S is how thick? Anybody?
1.25 inches.
Yeah, inch and a quarter. Okay, so you got that? I think you got that. And then sheet goods, is the stuff that we build the cabinet boxes out of, and we build a lot of things with sheet goods. We build a lot of boxes and anything that requires large, stable pieces. Anything where you have doors, you're going to want to use. If you're not building a stile and rail, a frame and panel door, you're going to use a piece of sheet wood. And Arthur sent me some pictures this week of some cabinets that he made out of looked like a Euro ply, which is what this is, which is a voidless ply. So this is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, this is a 13 ply. It's 3/4 of an inch, and it's 13 ply, and it's pretty much voidless. You don't see any voids like you'd see in a piece of CDX or some cheaper plywood. No void, just nice tight laminations. And so that's actually a detail. And so Art, do you have any of those pics?
Yeah.
Let me get out of my in video.
Are these what you're putting into the van conversions?
Yes. Yeah. So we're using 17/32 for mica. And here's from the outside of the van. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, so that's what it's for. It's going into a van. I wonder what that was. Yeah. Have you got any of those close-ups of the cabs?
So that's the far away one.
Laminated material. Did you buy the 17? Did you buy the Euro ply and then laminate it yourself with the laminate, or did you buy?
No, we get it delivered.
So you had it laid up. You had somebody laminate, Harders or somebody like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know the name of the company, unfortunately.
So
here we go.
Yeah, so there's the box, right? And so he's showing the edges, right? Those edges show, and that's that Euro ply look, and it's really a cool look, man, with that clean, and it almost looks like it's color core. Was it a color core laminate?
No.
Okay, and then you did a rabbet joint. You kind of see the joint, but you see the edge of the plywood. So he's used the edge of the plywood as an architectural detail, because the edge of the plywood is nice and tight, and you can do that. And I've done that in whole houses where we showed the edge. and didn't edge band it like we did in our cabinet, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little glary right there.
Yeah.
You can almost see the rabbit, so you got a bit of a glare, but anyway, nice, clean job. And to speak to Arthur's job, you can buy sheet goods in a variety of ways. If you go to the board store, right? If you go to, I don't think you can buy at Capitol anymore. I think you got to buy at Hayward's or Channel City. You can buy, you can buy CDX, which is exterior glue plywood for, you can use for outside. You can use it for anything. It's pretty rough plywood. You can buy an AB or an ACX. You can buy an A-side plywood, which is a smooth, really nice plywood face. Probably all our benches in here in the shop that we use for tables, classroom tables, desks, they're all a nice A-side plywood. You can probably buy an A-side birch or an A-side maple, maybe some oak, probably some red and white oak. But generally, if you're going to buy sheet goods off the shelf, you're going to buy them, or your guys like me are going to buy them from a larger wholesaler like Orpac or Harder's or Weber or, God, it's been almost 6 years. I'm losing some of the people, but we buy wholesale and try to buy at least half lifts. So that's 20 sheets. A lift is 40 sheets, and then get a way better price. And which brings me into another part of this class tonight, which is board feet and square feet and how that's priced and figured. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to go back for a second here to the gallery view and see if anybody's shown up. Any of you guys have all been here. Nobody showed up late. You guys were here. Austin's the only one came a little bit late, but everybody is. We've got everybody, and no Noel, no Donna, no Victor, no Enrique, no James, no Vinny, no Braun, and no Ryder. Okay. So let's do our safety meeting. I'm gonna share a screen with you guys. Share a screen, whiteboard, Zoom Cloud meetings, post attendee. This will probably do it. I hope. I hope this will get me there. Okay. Hide floating meeting controls. You go to some of this. Let's go to modules. Oh, by the way, if you guys go into your Canvas at some point, I haven't put up the Zoom video from last week. Or no, yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Yeah, last week was week 5. Yeah, so I put up the Zoom. So the Zoom video is up, and I'm going to try to do that consistently, and just stick around here after class, let it do its thing, and then embed it in the module so you guys can go back and review it if you need to. So what I also put up for last, let's go back. So for a couple weeks ago, for week 4, this is something that wasn't up until today. And I know I took some pictures with you guys, but there's that, there's my cut list, my sketch, my dimension sketch, and my cut list for that box that's behind me that I'll show you again. The box that we built in the YouTube video where we toured my old shop and we built the box. That's the kick. That 13.5 by 11 is the kick.
That's me.
That's the box. That's just a typical whip it out cut list to make that box. Not that hard. And then I also put up the sketch I did of the cabinet in the corner, the dimensioned sketch on 1/4-inch graph paper, and then I turned that sketch into a 3/4 inch equals a foot scale drawing with a down view, which I didn't dimension, my 17 and 24 deep. You see the 17 deep, you get that line of 17 deep from there, and you get the 24 from there. So yeah, if I was doing this for reals, I would have dimensioned right there that on that down view, but those dimensions are there. And there's the box, 96, 60 for the top. I didn't I didn't flesh out the dimensions on the height of the doors, but they're scalable at this point. So there's a few things on there that I would add to the dimensions if I was going to give this to you to cut list and build, or if I was going to sell this to you. I'd probably put a few more dimensions on it, so we'd be real clear. The more information you can put on a drawing, the better for everybody. The better for the person that's building it, even if it's you, especially. But especially if it's somebody else, because if you're building it and you didn't put some stuff in the drawing, you at least hopefully know it. If you're giving that drawing to somebody to build, you better have everything on there. Or hope you have everything on there.
Hey Rod, I had a question.
Fire away.
When I tried scanning my sketch,
Yeah.
because some lines are darker than others. When I was erasing sections, I don't have one of those erasing guys that redraw
Yeah.
sections. My scanner did not like it, and I had to do it a bunch of times. Is there a trick to that, or is it just?
It's a pencil drawing, right?
Yeah.
Scanners generally don't like pencil drawings. I got this brother that does like them pretty well, but there should be an adjustment on your scanner that allows you to scan darker.
I upped the contrast, and then it was showing every eraser mark too.
Oh, really? Shit. Yeah, I think that might be your particular scanner going on, because I don't have that trouble with my scanner, my brother's scanner. And without looking at it, I can't tell you, because I did look at the stuff you scanned and sent me. It is pretty light.
Yeah.
Pretty light. I mean, I could read it, but it's pretty light. And were the lines? Were they dark lines or were they light lines on the sheet?
They were pretty dark lines. Like even taking pictures with my phone and stuff, they show up better than they did with a scanner. So I think it's just a cheap printer, I guess.
Yeah. What kind of a printer have you got? Is it all?
It's a HP OfficeJet 5255.
Yeah. Those are like cheap.
It was very cheap.
No, because I have one I have one in our cottage, and I try not to use it if I don't have to. So think it's your scanner. Is all I can tell you without actually seeing it.
But the sketch was readable. I got it close enough.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was. If everybody that sent me stuff, I could read and interpret it, and I will hopefully have the time to take the time to get back to you and comment on the drawings. Those of you that sent me the drawings, eventually you're all going to have to get me those drawings. Okay, because I'm going to count those drawings, and I'm going to be on you if I don't receive a drawing from you. So sooner than later, before the midterm, get me those completed drawings. Picture on your phone, text it to me, send the picture to your email. Better to email me, either to my Utsters or the pipeline, either way. But finish those drawings, the floor plan and the cabinet drawing, and turn them in remotely, okay? And also, getting ahead of myself, and also I put just today for last week, I put that floor plan as well. So there's the sketch, classroom 24, and I changed that from 29, the actual, to 24 foot 0, and I changed that actual from whatever the heck it was to 28 foot 6, 16, 48 cabinet, 12 inches off, just this dimension sketch. Somebody say something? And then down below, that sketch is turned into an actual scale drawing in 1/4 inch scale. So drawings should be labeled, they should have the scale, they should have the date. Everything you generate that's paper should have a date on it, so we know when it happened. And then there's your simple showing the windows, and that's a typical window. Now, if I was wanting to show more detail, I would have showed those as a slider. I could have broken that, and I would have showed one line here, and then another line here, showing fixed and active slider, and I could have designated a slider or just done a little call out and labeled it. existing 8040 slider. I almost said 4080 slider. How bad would that be? It'd be bad, wouldn't it? It'd be a 4 foot wide by 8 foot tall slider, which is not a good window. So width is always first in your callouts. Okay, so that's that. And where else? Where am I? We're going to do our safety meeting. Okay. Week 6, 10-1, tailgate safety meeting. One of my favorite topics, safety, sex harassment. Woohoo! I mean, it's serious business, but it's easy to make fun of it. So can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read the introduction and the first paragraph, and then I'll call on some people to continue reading. But it's easy to, especially since it's all guys here. Donner didn't show up tonight. It's easy to, make fun of this sexual harassment in the workplace stuff, but it's a real thing. For men and women. I've been sexually harassed in the workplace. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I had a secretary. It was this really tall, tan, good-looking secretary, and I never. Plus, I'm happily married my whole life. It was a different wife at the time, but I would never, ever even consider any kind of a relationship beyond a cordial professional relationship with anybody that ever worked for me, ever. And I would, at the risk of giving advice, I would advise you all to follow that dictate, because it will cause you nothing but problems. So I had this good-looking secretary, and she was a recovering alcoholic. I don't know, her name was Cherry. She had 4 or 5 months, and I don't know, I probably had 15 years at least at the time. I got 30 years now of sobriety, but I came to my office one afternoon, and she was really drunk, and she came into my office, tried to sit on my lap, and she just kept trying to physically come on to me. I finally had to call the police. I had to go out to her car. She was going to drive home and take her keys and make her stay there until the popo came. It was bad. So it can happen, and it wasn't comfortable at all. And that was a radical one. I mean, but you also have to, as employers, we have to take trainings. We have to take these trainings, man. We have to take trainings. Like, I took this one training. It's mandatory training, right? It's like an all-day training or a half day or something like that. So I was just clowning around, and so the guy was teaching the class was saying you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that, and I said, well, would it be okay to say to a woman, I really like your shoes? And he said, well, it's probably okay, but it's probably better that you don't. I said, well, what if I said, I'd like to lick your shoes? Then he said, definitely not. Don't do that one. Okay. And I was just messing with him. Introduction. Sexual harassment is defined as uninvited, unwelcome, non-consensual, and inappropriate physical or verbal behavior or conduct of a sexual or gender-based nature that is directed at an unwilling participant. Sexual harassment is often severe and pervasive and can have a negative impact in the work environment. The victim can be male or female or someone who is fluid in their gender, and the harasser is not always of the opposite sex. Sexual harassment is illegal, and there are laws that protect victims in situations where the conduct is ongoing and severe. Somebody just go ahead and jump in. Identify yourself and jump in and read.
Sure.
John.
John, types of sexual harassment. Some types of harassment behaviors are blatant, while others may be less obvious. Examples of unwelcome behavior that may be viewed as sexual harassment include making disparaging remarks about someone's gender identity or gender expression, referring to someone by their birth gender instead of their identified gender, intimidating someone over their gender identity or gender expression, whistling or making catcalls at someone, offensive or sexual remarks made regarding a person's appearance, clothing, or body, etc., inappropriate touching or body contact, including standing too close or brushing up against someone, sharing demeaning or sexually explicit jokes, stories, or materials, asking personal questions about a person's sexual fantasies or preferences, sexual advances, continuing to ask someone out after they have expressed their disinterest, turning work discussions into sexual discussions, spreading rumors or lies of a sexual nature about someone, referring to adult male or female as a hunk, babe, doll, or honey, unwanted following or blocking of a person's path, giving personal gifts of a sexual nature, the sending of sexual suggestive notes, emails, or text messages, unwanted hugging, kissing, patting, stroking, or touching of a person's clothing, hair, or body, including giving a massage.
So no sending any dick pics. Okay, Alec, how about you?
What to do if you are sexually harassed? If you are a victim of sexual harassment, it is not your fault. Still, the decision to report sexual harassment can be a stressful one. In order to ensure that appropriate steps are taken to correct the problem and prevent it from continuing, you need to take action. Tell the harasser that you find their behavior offensive and you want it to stop, and report the incidents to your supervisor, general manager, or president of the company. Conclusion. While isolated incidents of teasing or offhand comments are not against the law, harassment that is frequent, severe, and creates a hostile work environment is illegal and punishable by law. Sexual harassment is psychologically and emotionally damaging, often causing humiliation, loss of dignity, and damage to reputation and career. All employees have the responsibility of behaving in a way that enables others to work in an atmosphere free from harassment of any kind. Disclaimer. Do you want me to read the disclaimer?
You might as well. You're on a roll.
This safety lesson should not be used to comply with the Department of Fair Housing and Employment's supervisory training requirements every 2 years for companies with more than 5 employees. It is intended only for informational purposes and should only be used to bring awareness to employees regarding sexual harassment.
Yeah, so that's what I had to do because I had more than 5 employees every 2 years. Somebody in supervisorial capacity has to take that training every 2 years and get certified. What does anybody have any comments or questions at all on this? Not a thing. Okay. Okay. Well, we got through that sexual harassment thing, so just don't do it. It's not fun for the person being harassed. You guys don't seem to be that type. None of you seem to be that type to me anyway. And you know, guys will be guys, and they'll make comments sometimes about, women when they see them. But if it's just you talking amongst your buddies, and no one can hear you, not the object of your, innuendo or harassment or whatever, then it doesn't really count. It counts when the other person hears it, when it becomes a thing. So you can think those things. There's no thought police, at least not yet. But the minute you take action, which is saying something or acting out, then you put someone in a bad way, and you really left yourself open to. So it'd be a drag to have anything like that come up. That whole thing with that woman, that secretary of mine, was such a drag, man. So another thing I wanted to show you all, I'm gonna stop sharing here for a second and get back to pin video. So Vistaprint, you guys hip to Vistaprint? Vistaprint, it's just unbelievable, man. So I sold my company coming up on 6 years ago. Sold a company, and the license, my California contractor's license, I have 2 licenses, a B1 and C6, went with the company, with the corporation, but with the caveat that within 5 years, with a new name style, I could get a new license, a new license number with a new name style without having to take a test. If I just did the application in 5 years, which I did right before the 5 years was up. I got a new license. My license was issued, 106/4280, was issued on April 1st. So does that mean it's real or not? I don't know. Should be. So, but I went ahead and got business cards made. I'm not doing a lot of work. Almost none. I am doing this job. I want to show you some of the plans. And I broke ground on that job, that complete gut and remodeling addition. The site's grubbed, the demo's underway, and the site's grubbed, and now we're going to do some little soil export to get the back lot more more in level, less of a slope for the owner wants to do that, and I've exposed some areas that need a retaining. But anyway, so I decided to have a card done, and I just went on Vista Print, and man, these cost me, about the case, but they cost me like $25 for 100 of them.
Wow.
And the backside too. $25 for 100 cards. And they have fit, I looked at hundreds of stock logos until I found one that I liked. But I was pretty stoked about that. That for less than $30, you can get 100 business cards. So if you're in business, or if you're doing business for yourself, go to Vistaprint and get some cards made. It makes you look pro.
I just got some of those made to hopefully get more side work.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of nervous passing them out because I don't want to get involved in a job where I'm taking more money than I'm supposed to be taking for a job and someone want to screw me over. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you need to be careful always who you're dealing with, because unless you're a licensed contractor,
Yeah.
you can't enter into a contract with someone. In other words, you can't say, I'll do your job for $1,000. It's illegal. Now, that's not to say you can't do that. You can do that. It's just in the business and professions code, it's not legal, and they can legally not pay you. But for somebody to have you do the work and then not pay you for whatever reason, if they want to jump on a reason like that, oh, you don't really have you don't have a real contractor's license, so I don't have to pay, I'm not going to pay you. Something's wrong already. Right?
Yeah.
That job somehow gone south, or you never should have taken it in the first place if your spidey sense wasn't tingling like crazy on that. So I think the business cards are great. It's a great way to advertise yourself and get yourself out there. It's a great way to continue to increase your experience and the jobs you do. And if you're going for a license and you don't have certs from an employer that covers the 4 years and 10 that you need to certify that you've been working as a journeyman and above, then you have to do a list of major projects. And you would do that project that you did for that person that you passed your business card out to, and you list that as a major project, and there would be a few things you'd have to do. You'd have some information you'd have to fill in. Technically, you can do time and materials up to $600, right? That's what the Business and Professions Code says, that if you're an unlicensed contractor, that you can work for time and materials up to $600. But it's who's checking you, right?
Yeah.
Who's checking that? So, how are you going to get the experience if you aren't able to do the work? And a $600 job, there's plenty of $600 jobs, but there's plenty of jobs that wind up being more than that. So if you want to bill up to $600 a whack and just do it that way, you cover yourself, or just have a really solid relationship with your owners. And that's what I think is the most important part of the work. Even over and above doing the work well and right and doing what you say you'll do. Now that's a pretty big statement to make, because you'd think that'd be number one, right? Do it right, do it well, do it timely, do it for the money you said you'd do it in. Do the work, get the work done, finish the work. Yeah, but that's number two. Number one is your relationship with the owner, because that's why you're doing the work. You're doing the work because they want it done. You're doing the work because they want to be made happy. They want to be made satisfied. And they're counting on you to do it, and they're going to pay you to do it. And you've agreed to do certain things, but ultimately it's the relationship that you got with them. And it's amazing what people remember, what customers remember. They can forget the fact that you just did $100,000 or 200 or 3 or 4 or 5 or sky's the limit amount of money work for them, and you did it great, But that Baldwin lever that sticks and doesn't return on their powder room door that you didn't come back and fix, which you said you'd do a couple times, that's what they remember. People remember the service they got, and people remember you. And guess what you are? You are your personality. That's what you are. And you and your personality are also represented by the people that work for you if you're an employer. So don't forget that, man. You're out there, and your employees, the people that work with you, are out there representing you and your good name. And that's ultimately all you got. I mean, it's a small town, the word gets around, and it's a big enough town where, you know, people that do shoddy work or people that screw people over, they still work, you know, that people, it's a big enough town where there's plenty of people that I would have thought, you know, this was it. They screwed that up so bad. I mean, take Mark Melchiori. Do you know who that is?
No.
Well, his father, Ugo Melchiori, I don't think he could read, to tell you the truth, but he was an A+ contractor. He was an Italian guy from the old country, and they did schools, and they did no, that was somebody else. They do big projects, big commercial projects, big multi-million-dollar company, and Mark just screwed over a lot of people, a lot of subs, and a lot of owners. And guess where Mark is right now? Yeah, he's in the penitentiary doing 8 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what can happen to you. You know, even people that maybe think they're untouchable, it can happen. So mind your own integrity and work on the relationship that you have with the people you're working for and with, and I think you'll do fine. That's my personal philosophy. Is that I gotta like you, and I gotta trust you for this working relationship to work. And by the same token, as an owner, you gotta like and trust me. So it's not just trust me. I need you to like me too. That's important because we got a relationship. We want to be able to talk about stuff. Like for instance, these people are now some of my better friends. And before they were my friends, they were just some people. Did I tell you the story about the people that on the Mesa? I may have, but they were recommended to me by the architect. And on the Mesa at the time, you could only add 49%. If you added more than 49% of the existing square foot of your house, it triggered a few clauses. One is you had to have a 2-car off-street parking garage or carport. A lot of these lots on the Mesa were just too small to ever have that happen. So you limited to added 49%. So we did multiple jobs where we would add 49%. I'm sorry, if you had over 50%. So we would add 49%. Like let's say you had a 1,500 square foot house. We'd add 745 feet to it. And now you've got a 2,245 square foot house. And we'd final that. And then we'd do the next phase, we add another 49%. So now we'd add another 1,100 to get you up to 3,000 plus. And that's how we got around that. If the lot was buildable and it wasn't, if it didn't have the room to do a 2-car garage or two off-street parking, they don't allow you to do that anymore. They've got in there and put the kibosh on that. But when we were doing that, why did I even start this? Oh, so this guy had done the first phase, Tom Thompson. He was the president of the Contractors Association at the time. I think I was a second vice president. Guy's a PhD. He's a really sharp, really good contractor. Did a lot of really great work, a lot of commercial work, and he just, they couldn't stand him. He did some stuff they didn't like, and they said he was the worst contractor ever. And then I know Tom pretty well, and Tom told me that he thought they were the worst owners ever, and the architect wanted me to get involved and do the second phase. Basically, he's handing me the job. It was, just bid it and it's yours. So I talked to Tom about them, and then I had a meeting with him. And And one of the first questions I asked them was, do you consider yourselves reasonable people? I really wanted to know. I want to know who they were and why Tom thought they were such, such bad people. And they proceeded to tell me that they did consider themselves to be reasonable people and why. And so then we started talking about point by point the stuff that they were unhappy with my friend's work with the first phase. And so I was able to address what he did and see where the problems were and see, just get the whole story so I could make my own decisions. And my own decision was that they seemed really reasonable people. And not only were they reasonable, but we did that job and several more jobs for them. And they were the best customers I ever had. And now they're some of our best friends. They live in South Carolina. I think they're going to move back here. But we've traveled and stayed with them for a month. And, they paid like a slot machine. They were like the dream customers. And I think what happened, I know what happened with Tom Thompson and that job is that he allowed it to get away from him on the relationship side. He didn't have a good personal relationship with the Rodmans, the people, the owners. And they were out of town a lot. I think they had a house in Arizona they were in a lot. And so their job took a backseat to his other jobs. And so a lot of stuff didn't get done in the time frame that it was supposed to. And the communication wasn't right. So communication is huge. And honest, open, polite, respectful, I usually say loving, but let's just say kind, communication solves all human problems. That's an UDism. Maybe on a test, you don't know. Could be open, honest, respectful, kind, communication solves all problems between people. But it's not just, it can't be one-sided, right? It's got to be, both of you got to be doing that. But it certainly helps if one person, like you, has a problem in a job with an owner and you are willing to communicate. There are people that aren't good communicators and they have problems with that, and they have problems with people. So don't be one of those people. Be a good communicator. That's in order. So access to drawings and modules, I did that. Okay. Somebody have a question? No? Okay. Carpentry math. There's going to be some carpentry math questions on your test. Simple math. Simple math. Still got video? Yeah. Okay, can everybody see the board okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So I can't see right now. I guess I could with a show of hands, but is there anyone here that doesn't know or understand converting fractions? Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody knows, but we're going to do a real simple, fast reflection about reducing to the lowest common denominator. Because in carpentry math, you got fractions, right? So let's say you got something that you need to add up, 3 3/4 inches plus 5/8 of an inch plus 9/16 minus.
We can't see the board.
You can't?
Yeah, we just lost focus for some reason.
Oh yeah, sure did, didn't it? What the hell?
It was good.
And there's no focus, there's no lens focus on this thing. You're pretty much on your own. Did it come back yet?
No, it's still focused like a foot away.
God dang it. It's not coming back, is it? Well, I'm going to keep going, and then I'll bring the board up to it. Okay? And you can follow along if you want. I got 3 3/4 plus 5/8 plus 9/16 minus 1/4 plus 7/8 minus 3/16 equals. It's a long sum of fractions. Now you can see, right?
Yeah.
Okay, focus came back. So in order to do this, we need to reduce this. We need to reduce these fractions to the lowest common denominator. What's the lowest common denominator in this sum?
16.
16, right?
16.
16 is the smallest, it's the lowest. So quarters
Oh yeah.
are bigger than 16ths, eighths are bigger than 16ths, 16th is the small. So we're going to turn all these things into 16ths. So we're going to still leave this big honking 3. We're going to leave it 3, and then to turn this into 16ths, 4 goes into 16 how many times?
4 times.
Exactly. So 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So that's 12 16ths plus 8 goes into 16 how many times?
2.
2 times 5 is 10 16ths plus 9 plus 9 16ths because we're at 16 minus 1/4 in 16ths is 4 goes into 16 how many times?
4.
4 times 1 is 4, so that's 4 16ths plus 8 goes into 16 twice. 2 times 7 is 14, that's 14 16ths, and then minus 3 16ths. So it's a simple matter. We'll leave the 3 out for now. Of 12 plus 10 is 22, plus 9 is 31, minus 4 is 27, plus 14 is 41, minus 3 is 38. So 38 16ths, and I haven't forgotten the 3 and 38 16ths. So 38 16ths, we want to turn into a whole number. So 16 goes into 38 twice is 32, with 16, 6 16ths left over. 16 goes 32 twice, so that's 3 plus 2 inches equals 5, and that's 32 16ths, and that leaves 6 16ths, and let's reduce that because we can, because 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 16 8 times, so that the answer is 5 3/8. 5 3/8, and we did that in this long fraction sum by reducing to the lowest common denominator. So if we had something that was in 30 seconds in that, then we'd have to reduce everything to 30 seconds. 64, 64. You follow me?
Yeah.
Good. So everybody can do that, right? Because there are going to be some carpentry questions. It's something similar to this, different whole numbers and fractions on the midterm test. I want you all to know something about carpentry math. And if I know some people have problems with math, and this, converting fractions and stuff like that, and decimal equivalents. There's another one. So all of these fractions can be turned into decimal equivalents, and you can do them on the calculator on your phone. So when we have a test, you use a calculator. We're going to have an open book test. You'll be able to access whatever you can access to answer the questions. I want you to do it, including using the calculator on your phone. Now, unless you've got some jazzy phone I don't know about, it's not going to add 16ths. Now, you can go ahead and reduce and use your calculator to do the 12, 10, 9, which I can do in my head, by the way. I don't need a calculator, but a lot of people do. I would say most people need calculators, but you can also change this stuff to decimals. It's a little longer, but to change any fraction to a decimal, for instance, 3/8 as a decimal is just simply 8 into 3. The bottom number into the top number. So 3 divided by 8, right? 8 into 30 is 3. 24, 6 remaining, drop another 0. 8 into 60 is 7. 7 times 8 is 56. Leaving 4, drop another 0. 8 into 40 is 5. So 0.375. I happen to know that 5/8 is 0.625, and 7/8 is 0.875, and a 16th is 0.125, and 5/16 is point. And anyway, I got most of that stuff in my head, but if you need to use your calculator, just any one of these, you can turn into a fraction 3/8 is 0.375. Now, if you do that with all of these, you can just plug these into your calculator. 0.375 plus 9/16, which is 0.5625, plus a quarter, which is 0.25, 7/8, which is 0.875, 3/16, which is 0.1875. You can just add that up in your calculator. So in converting any fraction to a decimal, you divide the bottom number into the top, and you come up with the decimal equivalent of that fraction. So that 0.375 is exactly the same as 3/8. Exactly. No difference. 3/8 is 0.375. Okay, so board feet. Board feet is pretty damn important if you're buying lumber. If you guys are the ones buying lumber, whether it's board store lumber, dimensional lumber, 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, 4x4s, 4x8s, 4x6s, or cabinet grade lumber, oaks and maples and stuff like that that's sold S4S, 8/4 S4S, you're going to be buying it by the board feet. And the board feet is always represented in thousands of board feet. Now, this could get a little confusing, but I need to tell you how it's really done. And how it's really done is in thousand board feet. So let's start with something simple, like 2x4s. So if you want to figure, you're building a wall, right? And you got, the wall takes 12 2x4 by 8, and it's you got 48 feet, 2x4 for your plates. And you want to know what that's going to cost. And you know, by the way, 2x4 Doug fir construction grade, which is dimension lumber, 2x4 is 1.5 inches by 3.5. That lumber was coming out at $415 a thousand. It's now like $780 a thousand. So $780 for MBF. That's a mill board foot. Mill board foot means 1,000 board feet. So 2x4s today at the board store cost $780 for 1,000 board feet. Now 1,000 is 3 decimal points, right? So it's 1, 2, 3. It's 78 cents a board foot. So the lumbermen, they talk about things are all in thousands. So when somebody says to you, yeah, it's 780 a thousand, what they're saying is that's 78 cents a board foot. Oak today, you probably still buy it for $250, which is 2,500 MBF, a mill board foot, which is $2.50 per board foot. Okay, so let's just figure out, let's figure out how many board feet are in these 12 2x4s 8 and these 48 2x4s, or 48 feet of 2x4. We'll figure out how many board feet, and then we'll use this 780 a thousand, and we'll figure out how much it costs. Okay, we're gonna do this right now. And I mean, somebody got a calculator on them. Somebody get their phone up. I don't even know how to find the calculator on that phone yet. So, but I'll be able to do some of this in my head. So 78 cents, 780, right? 780. Most of this will be done for you at the board store. But the more you know, the better carpenter you're going to be. The more you know about board feet and what it takes to estimate lumber and its cost, the better carpenter you're going to be. Okay, so here's here's the formula for board feet. Formula for board feet is thickness times width, this is in inches, times length in feet over 12. It's just that simple. Thickness times width in inches times length in feet divided by 12. That's the whole thing. That's it. And then, of course, also times number of pieces. So forget about the 12 for right now. Let's find out how many board feet are in an 8-foot 2x4. Okay, so 2 times 4 times 8 over 12. 2 times 4 is 8, right? Times 8 is 64. So 64 over 12 equals 5 1/3. 12 goes into 64, 5 with 4 left over, 4/12 is a third. So there's 5 1/3 board feet in every 8-foot stick. So this is 12 times 5 1/3, and that equals 60. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times a half is 6. So 66 board feet in these 12 2x4/8s. And then in 48 lineal feet of 2x4, well, we know that a 2x4 is 5 1/3 times 48. Okay, so 5 times 48 is 240. And a third of 48 is 16. So that's, what was it? 240, so that's 256. All right. 48 lineal at 5 1/3. Oh, no. That's wrong. That's wrong. I gave it to you wrong. Sorry, guys.
Why am I getting 64 board feet for the first one? Am I doing something wrong?
Say again now.
I'm getting 64 board feet for the first one.
You're getting 64, not 66. So,
I'm doing 12 times 4 times 8 divided by 12 times 12.
yeah. So 2 times 4 is 8, right? Times 8 is 64, correct?
Yes.
Divided by 12. 12 into 64. 12 goes into 65 times, and that leaves you 4/12 of a remainder. 4/12 is a third,
Yeah.
right? So 5 1/3. 5 1/3 times 12, right? So 12 times 5 is 60, and a third is 64. Right, totally right. It's not 5 1/2, it's 5 1/3. Thank you. Was that John?
Yeah.
Okay, extra credit for getting the right answer, minus demerits for embarrassing. Just kidding. No, always call it out, man. Call it out. So thank you. So it's 64 board feet, not 66. Thank you. Was John the only one that got that? Come on, you guys. That was a test. You all failed miserably. Except for John. Just kidding. Okay, so now we know that an 8-foot 2x4 is 5 1/3. Now, just a 2x4 is 1 foot, right? So you want to figure out how much 1 foot of a 2x4 is in board feet. So 2 times 4 over 12. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 over 12 is 2/3, 0.666. So 1 foot is 2/3 of a board foot. 2/3 of this, 3 goes into 48, 16. 2 of those 16s is 32. This equals 32 board feet. Total of 96 board feet. So 12 2x4/8s plus the 48 lineal feet of 2x4 for plates equals 64 and 32 board feet respectively, equals 96 board feet. Anybody have any questions about that or any corrections? You see that, right? And then I'm going to show you how we get that. That's right. Don't forget tax. But I will. Okay, so it's 780 1,000. So 96 board feet times 78 cents. Somebody plug that in for me, please. 96 times 0.78. What is it?
74.88.
74.88. Okay. And then that times 8.75% for your tax. But that's what 96 board feet of 2x4 costs. If the 2x4 is 780 a thousand or 78 cents a foot. So I like to figure, when I figure board feet, I like to figure the board foot of 1 foot. So I know that 2x4 is 0.666. I know that 4x8 equals 32 over 12. I know that's 2.66 board feet for every foot. So if it's 10 foot sticks, it's 26.6. If it's a 10 footer, 10 foot equals. That's in 4x8. 2x10. 2x10 is 20 over 12. 20 goes into 12. 1 with 8 left over, which is 8 over 12 is 2/3, so it's 1.66 board feet per running foot. So you got a 16 footer, you go 16 times 166. Did somebody have a question? So how I do this stuff in my head is 16 times, so if it's a 16 foot stick and 1.66 board feet per foot, 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 66, well 0.66 is 2/3. 3 doesn't go into that very well, but it's 5 1/3. So 2 5 1/3 is 10 2/3. So 10.66. So it's 26.66 board feet. And a 16 foot 2x10. Now here's the easy ones for board feet. 2x12, 1x12, 2x6, 3x4, 4 and anything by 12. Anything by 12. So a 6x12, which is not an uncommon piece of lumber from the board store. How many board feet in 1 foot of 6x12?
1/2.
6 board feet. 6x12. In a 4x12, how many board feet in 1 foot? 4. In a 2x12, how many board feet in 1 foot?
2.
Yeah, in a 1x12.
1.
Exactly. In a 3x4, 1 board foot. In a 2x6, 1 board foot. 2 times 6 is 12 over 12. So anything with 12s in it, anything that's a 12, 1x12, 2x12, 3x12, 4x12, up to 8x12, whatever, you know, an 8x12 is 8 board feet per running foot. Now you might get a big old glue lamb or Pearland beam that's maybe 8x16, and that's going to be 1,200 1,000, which is, we all know, at 1,200 1,000, you move the decimal point 1, 2, 3 places. 1, 2, 3 places. It's $1.20 a board foot, and an 8x16 is $1.20 a board foot. 8 times 16 is 80 plus 48 is 128. It's 128 over 12, which is 10.66 or 10 2/3 per running foot in an 8x16. 10.66 or 10 2/3 board feet for every foot of an 8x16. And let's say it's a 20 footer. So it's going to be 200 and 207 equals 207 board feet times $1.20. So it's going to be what, $214 plus tax for that one stick. for that 20 foot, 8 by 16. I know I got everything on the map here, but does anybody have questions about that? Did you get the concept of board feet and mill board foot and all that stuff?
Are,
Anybody
are
have
we
some
gonna,
questions about it? So everybody understands it?
are we gonna cover how to do it by inch lengths, or
By what now?
are we gonna cover how to do board feet by inch lengths? The length of the board is in inches, like for hardwoods or something?
No.
Okay.
No, you're gonna need to convert that to feet or fractions in the foot, right? Period. So you won't be using inches other than in board feet, the thickness in inches, the width in inches, the length is always in feet. So if it's some fraction of a foot, if it's inches, you gotta make that. In other words, if it's 6 inches, it's half of a board foot. But you're not gonna be buying any. You won't be buying any boards that are 7'6" long. So when you're figuring board feet, you're figuring what you buy. You got your board foot costs have got to include your waste. You've got to. You can't just charge people for the actual board foot what you're making, because you can't. You know, if you're making something 12'6", you got to buy a 14-foot stick, right? You can't charge them for 12'6". I mean, unless you mark the hell out of it, mark it up to accommodate that, accommodate the loss.
Can you tell James that?
Why? What do you do?
He made us do problems and do it by inches too, and then divide by 144.
Oh Christ, that's ridiculous. Well, yeah, and that's for square feet. You're talking 144. And that square feet doesn't have a whole lot to do with board feet. So I'm not going to address that right this second. But what I'm going to segue right into is so I told you about milled board foot, which works for the hardwoods too. And when let's say we're talking about 8-quarter red oak, which I can buy for probably, again, $250, $1,000 for 8-quarter as well. It's going to be in feet, and even though the 8-quarter net's 1 3/4 inches, you're gonna figure it as a solid 2 inches. It's a 2-inch piece, just like a 2x4. You figure is actual 2 inches. You measure 2 times 4, not 1.5 inches times 3.5. So dimension lumber is S4S, surface 4 sides. It's the stuff you buy at the board store. It's the stuff we've been just talking about: 2x4s, 2x10s, 4x4s, 4x8s, dimension lumber, and that's always a 1/2 inch under. So a 4x8 is 3.5 by 7. A 2x12 is 1.5 by 11.5. Period, across the board. I mean, you might have some variations, like like a 2x8 now might be 7 3/8, but they should all be 7 3/8. So solid stock and dimensioned lumber is sold by the board foot. Sheet goods, how do you think they're sold? There's obviously sold by the sheet, but that's figured by the mill square foot, which is MSF. So sheet goods, plywoods, MDF, particle boards, all that stuff is sold by MSF. Mill, which is 1,000 squares. So a sheet of plywood, a typical sheet of plywood is what size? Typical 4x8, right? So 4x8, and let's say you got, so the thickness doesn't really come into play. So there was a piece of 3/4 4x8 red oak. At 2,000 MSF. Do you know how you figure the sheet cost at 2,000 MSF? How you do it, very simply, is 4 times 8 is 32. Because remember, we're talking not board feet now, we're talking square feet. So 4 times 8 is 32 times, let's take this 1,000 square foot and go 1, 2, 3 places. So now it's $2. That's a $64 sheet of plywood. See that? So now you can ask about mill square foot prices. You know, when you're pricing that stuff, and you're pricing 20 sheets of plywood and they want 2,000 a square foot, right? 2,000 for a 1,000 square feet, and that's one, and you're buying 20 sheets, which is a half of a lift. You should be getting this for maybe 1,800, 180 a square foot. If you're buying a whole lift, maybe you get it down to 1,500, buck 15, save 25%. Do we have any questions about that? Any questions at all? Okay, so I'm going to shift gears for just a second. Come down here and see you all. Gallery view, and okay, there we go. You guys seen the gallery view?
It doesn't actually change depending on what we do. We get to select our own, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So anyway, we're gonna take a break. So now I got 7:32. I think I've got some turkey jerky in my golf bag. I need some protein. So I think somebody showed up. Wait, Victor? Let's see. Did somebody show up late?
Yeah, I did.
Who's that?
Victor.
So Victor, you did show up.
Yeah.
Victor Gallegos. Victor, you weren't here last week, were you?
Nah, I wasn't feeling good.
Okay. Did you call me or text me?
No, I sent you an email today. Though.
Can you get your video to come up? And Noel, you've showed up too. Dang, you guys,
Yeah.
snuck in there. All right, so here's the deal. Thanks, Victor. How about you, Noel? Can you come to the video? Hey, if you're gonna be late, come. Okay, I don't care how late you are. Show up, because you missed the part where I told everybody else about showing up. Even if you're late, show up. But if you can't make it, like last week, you couldn't make it, Victor.
Yeah.
You gotta shoot me a text, dude, or an email. You got 2 email addresses for me. You got a phone number for me. Just a simple text like, I am sick and I won't be able to be in class tonight, right?
All right.
Otherwise, it's an unexcused absence, and those are not good. They don't work. They don't work for getting you a good grade. And I really want to see everybody get good grades. And to do that, Victor and Noel, because you didn't hear my pitch to these guys earlier, is man, you just gotta show up. If you show up, you're gonna do great. Show up, keep your eyes open, you're gonna do good. So does anybody have any questions about this board feet or anything that right now? What kind of a car is that, Al?
It's a Mazda 3 hatchback.
Is that yours?
It's my girlfriend's.
Nice.
We share it.
I like the color. Oh, I like the idea of showing the car too. I've got 3, 4. I've got 5 vehicles I pay insurance on. So let's take a break until 7:45. So at 7:45, we're going to be back here, and then we're going to do something a little different. Yeah, we're going to read from the book. So hopefully you guys have got your books, 11th or 12th. It isn't going to matter. All right. See you back here at 15:02. Okay, 15 to 8. Okay,
While
so
operating a tool, do not allow yourself to be distracted. See Figure 521. Do not distract the attention of others while they are operating power tools. Keep all safety guards in place and wear safety glasses. Figure See figures 5 through 2. Feed the wood
carefully.
carefully and only as fast as the tool will easily cut. Overloading is
Hazardous.
hazardous to the operator and likely to damage the tool or work. When the operation is complete, turn off the power, wait till the moving parts have stopped before leaving the machine.
Okay, so this actually said a whole lot of really good stuff. I mean, a lot of good stuff. You must be wide awake and alert, which is all my whole thing about safety is being awake and aware and alert. Make sure things are sharp, man. Dull tools are dangerous tools. Why is that? If you want to answer, unmute yourself and tell me why is a dull tool a dangerous tool?
Because the effort required to use them, you're exerting yourself and going over what you normally have to do.
Yeah, you're putting pressure that you shouldn't have to put, which could cause a problem for you if something goes wrong with the power tool. It should cut easily. So sharp knives, sharp blades, cut easily. You don't have to push, and the work's better. You don't burn. So it goes on to say, feed the work carefully and only as fast as the tool will easily cut. So I don't know if how many of you are table saw aficionados, but basically if you're a carpenter that does any kind of finish work at all, then you should be relatively familiar with the table saw. And a table saw is a fantastic tool. It's the heart of a shop. It turns really fast. A 10-inch arbor table saw will take off not just digits, it'll take off limbs. So it's a really dangerous tool. It needs a whole lot of healthy respect, but it's also a tool that, unless you've got a relatively big motor, like a 3-phase motor and a power feed, it's all hand fed. So there are plenty of places, and I've worked in plenty of places, and we had in my shop power feeds for pushing through stock, especially multiple pieces like ripping stiles and rails for doors. We'd use a power feed, but generally you're going to be pushing stuff through the table saw by hand, by yourself, and it's pretty much a dance, especially in ripping. When you're ripping something long, let's say you're ripping a 16-foot stick, and it's a 2x10, and you need to rip it down to 2x9 1/8, because that's what you need to go in there. And it's a 16-foot rip. That's a lot of rip. And of course, with the 2x4 is not as important, but as you move that through the saw, you want a constant rate of feed. I wish I could, demo. I'm going to do a video. I keep kind of flipping back and forth. I'm going to do a video for you guys of some use of some of these tools, and then we'll watch it, or I'll have you. Actually, I'm going to be gone at some point. Maybe I'll have something prepared for you to watch. But at any rate, this dance you do to the table saw is constant rate of feed. You have to constantly keep it moving at approximately the same rate of feed. Not too slow, and certainly not too fast, because you can burn, or your blade can get off, your work can get off and get bound between the fence and the blade, get burn marks, or worse, you can get chatter or kickback. All kinds of nasty things can happen. So how you control that stock is really, really important. And wait till all the moving parts will stop. So what else we got here? That can read electrical safety for us. Alec, can you read electrical safety for us? Read the whole thing. I want you to read 5.1.1 all the way, that whole thing, all the way to 5.1.2 shock protection.
Okay. Electrical safety. To understand electrical safety, one must first know how electric current flows in a circuit. Electrical energy consists of current flow, the movement of electrons in a conductor, and voltage, the force behind the current. A generator, battery, or some other source makes voltage. The voltage applies force to the electrons in one of the two conductors. If there is a path through a tool lamp or other load and then to a return conductor, the electrons will move. The conductor from the source to the load is the hot conductor. The conductor leading back to the source is the neutral conductor. It is common to use the earth or ground as part of the path back to the source. If a person comes in contact with the hot conductor and the earth or ground, he or she may provide an easier path for the current to get back to the source. When this happens, the person receives an electric shock. To prevent a shock in the event of a faulty appliance or tool, most have a third conductor called the ground conductor that connects the frame of the tool with the earth, so the current is less likely to travel through the user. Always make sure that the electric power source is of the correct voltage and that the tool switch is in the off position before plugging the tool into an electrical outlet. Corded power tools operate on 120 volt or 240 volt electric power. This information is usually shown on a plate attached to the power tool's case. If in doubt about the power source voltage, examine the receptacle. Stationary power tools are factory equipped with magnetic starters. These are
Back up a second, Alec, and read the safety note.
Oh, sorry. Safety note. Never carry a portable power tool by its cord or disconnect it from the receptacle by pulling on the cord. This can damage the insulation and electrical connections inside the plug or the tool, creating a potential hazard. Stationary power tools are equipped with magnetic starters. These are safety devices that automatically switch to the off position in case of a power failure. This feature is important because personal injury or damage to the equipment could result if power is re-established with the switch in the on position. Always make sure these switches are in good working order. The electrical cord and plug must be in good condition and must provide a ground for the tool. This means that extension cord should be the 3-wire type. Make sure the conducting wire is large enough to prevent excessive voltage drop. Be careful in stringing electrical extension cords around the worksite. Put them where they will not be damaged or interfere with other workers. If on the ground, they should be secured so as to not present a tripping hazard. Make certain that the extension cords maintain ground continuity. This means that the third conductor in a cord is providing an unbroken path for the current back to a grounded terminal. Thus, in case of a short in the tool case, current harmlessly bleeds off to the ground.
Wow. So, hey, did you all know that? The basics of electrical? I suspect there's some of you, myself included, that didn't really know exactly these simple basics of how electricity works. The hot, neutral, ground. Even though I really do know and I've worked around it so much and I've worked around electrical and electricians, but to have this guy explain it like this with these pictures is pretty cool, because it's the electric power. Now, we don't really have this problem with our batteries. We probably have other problems that I don't know about yet, or that we don't know about with everything going so cordless. But with 110 shore power coming out of the wall, or 240, but generally we're using our power tools at 110, there is a real potential for harm. So two things. One is, it's incredible that you plug these things in to an outlet, and you pull a trigger and they work. It's incredible. And by the same token, that incredible source of power, if it gets away and you've got say a cut or insulation off of a wire, it's a hot wire that's providing power, or even the neutral, and it grounds through you, and doesn't have a proper ground. Let's say the ground is something's wrong with it, it's broken too, like your cord has been carried, your tool's been carried by the cord, then you can have that tool ground through you. And you can be shocked to the point where, if it depends on where it goes through you, if it crosses your heart, it can stop your heart. It can kill you. 110 can kill you. So you just got to be careful. Just it's I don't think it's a big issue if you just maintain your tools and don't use really crappy tools. And if your cords are bad, fix them. Even if you got to electrical tape the crap out of them that day and then replace the cord. Replace the cord. Don't get shocked. You won't like it. Which brings me to a story. And I may or may not. I'll probably go one more, but I'm going to tell you the story about Daniel. So Daniel worked for me as a laborer. He was a good kid. He was 19 or 20. And he was his girlfriend. He lived in Isla Vista with his girlfriend, who was from a very wealthy family, the Shearson Lehman family, as a matter of fact, which hugely big wealthy family, lots of money. And Daniel, besides being a good worker, was accident prone. I swear, the guy was just constantly having accidents. So this one particular time, he was at the one end carrying a fairly heavy full height pantry cabinet built out of plywood, getting it to go on the kick and get it installed. So we had a guy working, the owner had a guy working there, a German guy who was a handyman type, and he was doing the electrical. And so he wasn't our sub, wasn't my sub, that's for sure. It wasn't our sub. And he had left a box, regular, the box was hot. I don't know if it was a switch. I think it was probably up at the level it was on the wall. It was probably a switch light, but it wasn't made off. In other words, the switch wasn't made off to it, so he had hot wires. He had a hot and neutral on the ground just sticking out of the box. And so as Daniel backed up, carrying this heavy cabinet, his arm made contact with this hot outlet, and he got shocked. He got 110 that went through his arm, through him, grounded, and gave him a shock. And shook his arm a bit, and he couldn't let go of the cabinet for about 3 or 4 seconds. And essentially, what happens when you get a shock like that through some of your larger muscles, like his biceps, it's like doing 1,000 curls. It just works your muscle and vibrates your muscle until it feels like super sore. So anyway, he wasn't burned, and he wasn't electrocuted. So I sent him home until the next morning. I checked in, and he said, "Oh man, I just feel horrible." He couldn't even move his arm, and so we'll take the week off. So Sarah and I decided, the owner and I decided, because it was her guy, and to go ahead and pay for this out of pocket. And I didn't really want to have a claim. I didn't want to start a workers' comp claim. That's a whole other story. So we decided we just pay his wage out of pocket for the week, split it, and hopefully he'd be back to work, Monday. So every day I checked on him, and then Friday he came into my office and said he needed to talk to me. So he came into my office and he sat down, and he said, I'm feeling better. I think my arm's not as sore. I think I could probably go back to work, but I can't get an erection. I said, what? Because since I got the shock, I can't get an erection. I said, well, listen, it wasn't the shock. It wasn't the shock. I can see the claim now. Anyway, he was really seriously in a bad way. So I told him, don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. And sure enough, he was just fine. I think it was psychological. But so be careful, because that could happen. Maybe it wasn't psychological, but whatever. I think he went on. That went away for him. So after that anecdote, we finished with Alice took us through electrical safety to shock protection. Okay, so who do we got out here? Who do we got? Austin, you willing and ready, willing and able to read us 5.12, 5.1.2 shock protection?
Sure.
Thank you.
Electric shock is one of the potential hazards of working with power tools. Always be sure that proper grounding is provided. Receptacles should have a third terminal for grounding. Plugs and cords should be of an approved type. Portable power tools should be double insulated or otherwise grounded to protect the worker from dangerous electrical shock. Even though a circuit may be grounded, the operator of a portable power tool could be electrocuted should a bare conductor come in contact with a metal tool case. A ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, should be used on all construction job sites. These units can be installed in a circuit or plugged into an outlet that is grounded. These units sense when there is even a slight difference between the current flowing in the hot leg and that in the neutral leg of a circuit. When a ground fault difference in current flow occurs, the GFCI turns off power to the tool. Safety note, under certain circumstances, even a double insulated tool can provide a serious or even fatal shock. If moisture is allowed to get inside of the tool's housing, it can provide an electrical path from energized parts to the outside.
And then you see below the figure 5.6 is a portable GFCI used where permanent ground fault protection is not available. Power tools plugged into it to protect the operator. So should a ground occur in the tool, this thing trips, this GFCI trips at about 5 milliamperes, which is not very much juice, and it turns the tool off, which is great. Rather than sending 120 volts through you somewhere. Yeah, shock protection is good, and they did say something about cords, you know. So if you've worked on jobs, you know that power cords can be a real bummer. Because everybody's got their power cords and they're strung out everywhere. They're tripping hazards, and then you'll be working along and somebody will unplug you, so they can plug in. There's some weirdness like that. So be aware of your power tools and use big cords, man. Don't use 14 wire cords, and definitely don't use 16 wire cords. Right? You want to use at least a 14 or a 12 wire cord. But decent cord should be 14 wire. And that's the thickness or the gauge of the wire. The larger the gauge, the smaller the number, the larger the gauge, the more current flows, the stronger the current. You want an uninterrupted flow. You do not want voltage drop in your cords. And if you're running your cords at 100 feet, like say through a spider box, which already say running out 25, 50 feet, but that's got like number 10 or number 8 wire heating up that spider box, and you're plugged into it, say another 100 feet, you have voltage drop. So you might be at 108 at the wall, and you might be at 90 by the time it gets to your tool, and that's not good for your tool. So just be aware of these things. Be aware of the power output and what's available for power, and just check them. Make sure you're getting the kind of power that you and your tool needs safely, so you're also not going to get shocked. So let's go ahead and read. We're going to read about 5.2. We're going to read all the way through 5.2. And then I think we'll do, we'll do the circular saw. We'll get all the way through circular saw, and then I think I'll stop us. Okay, so 5.2 circular saws, that's going to be Michael?
You're talking about 5.2 making a cut?
Yeah, 5.2 portable circular saws. Oh, you got 11?
Yeah, I got 11.
Okay, let's see. Let's see what yours says.
Mine says making a cut.
Let's see. 5.2.
I got saber saws.
Yeah. Let's see where you're at. So saber saws 5.3. So it goes right to making a cut where you are?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read.
Wait.
You got it. 5.2.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the wrong section.
Jesus, Michael.
Hey. All right. A portable circular saw is also called an electric handsaw or builder saw. Refer to figure 5.5. Its size is determined by the diameter of the largest blade it will take. Most carpenters prefer a 7-inch or 8-inch saw. The depth of the cut is adjusted by raising or lowering the base or shoe. On many saws, it's possible to make bevel cuts by tilting the shoe. The portable saw may be used to make cuts in assembled work. For example, flooring, roofing, boards are often nailed into place before their ends are trimmed. Portable saws are often guided along the layout line freehand. Therefore, extra clearance in the saw kerf is required. To provide this clearance, teeth usually have a wide set. Figure 5-6 shows standard types of blades. The combination of blade is popular because it is suitable for both ripping and cross-cutting. Some carpenters prefer carbide tip saw teeth because they usually stay sharp longer than the teeth of a standard blade.
Okay, so Does anybody have a circular saw? Everybody got one? Everybody's carpenter should have circular saw. It's probably a 7 1/4 worm drive, maybe a skill saw, maybe something else. But do any of you use blades that aren't carbide? Nobody uses high-speed steel blades, period. Nobody. Like, it's carbide. And nowadays you just,
And diamond blades for concrete.
for sure, but for cutting wood, carbide tipped blades. I'm going to show you something. We'll go through, so making a cut, and then I'm going to show you how you can turn your saw into, if not a track saw, you can turn your skill saw into really a pretty precision instrument. Next step being a track saw. So, Brandon, would you unmute yourself and please read for us 5.2.1, making cut. Yeah. Page 93 in your book, Brandon.
Before making a cut, the stock to cut should be positioned.
Okay, so your audio is so bad, I got to cut you off. You got bad audio, Brandon. So work on that, will you? In the meantime, Jose, are you up for reading 5.2.1?
Me?
Yeah, Jose Cornejo.
Got it. All right. Making a cut. Before making any cut, the stock to be cut should be positioned on stable support so that the blade will not touch anything on the opposite side of the stock.
Wait, where the hell?
Making a cut. Before making any
Oh, yeah, we can't hear you. Can't hear
hear
you. So, no, you gotta talk into your microphone.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you say hello, but not very loudly.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
Okay, so that's okay. So we got to get some good audio because we're all listening and reading along. We didn't hear anything. So who's got good audio? Who wants to give it a shot, man? Who wants to give it a shot that's got good audio? Who wants to come back? Alec or Art or Eric, if you haven't tried, Eric, unmute yourself.
You want me to try?
Yeah, please. Yeah,
Gotcha.
your audio is good. So can you read Making a Cut?
Making a cut? Okay, I have the 11th edition though.
That's okay. We can follow. I'll follow along on the 11th, and you guys just listen up. And he's pretty much saying the same thing. Go ahead. Oh shit. Okay. So Eric's not happy. Eric, your whole thing froze up. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this. Okay. I'm gonna meet.
Okay, I got it right here.
And I'm going to read it out of the 12th edition, which is just slightly different. I mean, just slightly different. But making a cut, before making any cut, the stock to be cut should be positioned on stable supports so that the blade will not touch anything on the opposite side of the stock. The piece should be positioned so that the waste or piece being cut off can fall freely without pinching the saw blade. To use a portable saw, firmly grasp the handle in one hand with the forefinger ready to operate the turbo switch. Most saws have two handles. Holding the saw with both hands makes following your layout line easier and protects your hands from getting too close to the blade. Rest the base of the saw on the work and align the guide mark with the layout line. Turn on the switch, allow the motor to reach full speed, then smoothly feed the blade into the stock as shown in figure 5.9. Release the switch as soon as the cut is finished. Hold the saw until the blade stops. Now, you can see this in this picture on the sawhorse. You see as the two-handle picture. Always disconnect the saw from the power source when changing. That's a really good idea when you're changing blades. Unplug your saw, and then I'm gonna whip through. And then there's a typical skill saw. Then I'm going to talk about that notch, and I'm going to whip through these safety notes. And then show you how to make this thing, and then we're out of here. Safety note, follow these safety rules when working with portable circular saws. Wear safety glasses and hearing protection. Really good idea. I wish I had done way more of it. Wear safety, unplug the saw to replace the saw blade. Some saws have a control that locks the arbor during this operation. Those of you know what that is. I don't think this saw has it, or I'd show it to you. I'm going to show you one thing on the saw. If it has two handles, keep both hands on them as much as possible. Start the cut using one hand to raise the guard when needed, usually at the beginning of a compound cut. When the cut's completed, make sure the guard returns to the closed position. Never block the guard so it stays open. Doing that will severely compromise your safety, and that's really true. Support stock being cut so the kerf will not close up and bind. So in other words, don't cut like with this guy. If this guy cut in the middle here, right there, instead of on the end, that cut would bind up in his kerf. This kerf would close up on the saw blade, and it would not be a fun thing to have happen. It's never fun. Support thin materials near the cut. Small pieces should be clamped to a bench top or a sawhorse. Be careful not to cut into the sawhorse or other supporting device unless you don't care. Before starting the saw, adjust the depth of cut to the thickness of the stock plus about 1/8. That's really a good rule of thumb. You want it to cut a little below, not much below. So it's still 1/8 inch of material that you of whirring, sharp-ass carbide saw blade that you more than likely can't see. So just remember it's there on the bottom of your cut. Check the base and angle adjustments to be sure they're right. Plug in the cord to a grounded outlet. Make sure, that's another thing. Make sure you know what your cord's doing, that you're not going to get jammed up by your cord stopping you. Make sure it's either over your shoulder or got plenty of slack to complete your cut and not get get pulled tight. It's really a drag. And not become tangled in the work. Always place the saw blades on base on the stock with the blade clear before turning on the switch. So in other words, don't turn on your switch and then put your base down and then start going. You don't know exactly where that blade is a lot. You can hit your work in an area that you don't want to. During the cut, stand to one side of the cutting line. Never reach under the workpiece during a cut because that's where your blade is. And by the way, circular saw blades cut. Well, I'm going to show you that in a second. If the saw blade strays off the cutting line, stop the saw, pull back, and start the cut over. Otherwise, the blade may bind and cause an injury. Keep hands clear of the cutting line. Have the saw at full power and up to speed before beginning a cut. So get that thing to full RPM, then start your cut. Always use a sharp blade of the proper type. In other words, use a rip blade to rip, use a crosscut blade to crosscut, or a combo to if you're combo blade if you're ripping and crosscutting with the same blade. There is a blade that does that. Always use a sharp blade. Never force the saw. Never force the saw through the material. Don't do it. It can kick back. It can bind. It can do all kinds of bad things. Never force the saw. Since they are light and portable, hand power tools can be carried anywhere on the job site. Avoid care to avoid damage or injury when you're carrying them. Dropping the saw or allowing it to fall can damage it. Never use a damaged saw. Keep the saw guard clean and lubricated so it functions as designed. So it retracts as you start your cut, or when you move it with your left hand to get it out of the way as you start your cut, that it does so smoothly because it's oiled and not all jammed up with fur sap and stuff. And then immediately remove from service any saw that does not properly function. So, okay, circular saws. Now, 3 things about that circular saw. 3 things. One is what's the damn first thing? Let me grab one. Pretty heavy. I think skill saws are uber heavy, actually. And so when you're freehand cutting, I like to cut with a saw protractor, by the way. I like to cut with a square when I'm cutting things square with like a speed square as a guide for my saw. But you know that right there, right? That V, just on a couple of test pieces with a chalk line or a line, cut to the center of that V, to that side of the V or to that side of the V, and find out where your saw cuts. And so how you want to cut. And if you go to the center of the V to the center of the line, is that where it cuts right off the line? And if you want to leave the line, you know which side of the V to cut on. And when your saw is beveled, you want to check that V too, right? So those V's, if you're freehanding, you're following that V on a line, make sure you know how your particular blade, because every blade's going to be slightly different. Maybe the same blade will do the same thing, but blades are thicker and thinner. So because most people use skill saws as rough tools, I had a Rockwell Delta skill saw that I had for years. I bought it new in 1974. Bought it in 1974, brand new. And one of the things I bought for it, besides a variety of blades, was I bought a 62 7 1/4 carbide tip expensive blade. So that's a lot of teeth, and it wasn't a thin kerf, but it was a little thinner, had really good teeth. It was a really good blade. It was a good finish work blade. It was great for cross cutting, but it was a good blade for cutting plywoods. So and mostly I cut doors with it. I cut a lot of door bottoms, and I would also cut door edges. So I made myself guides. Now we've got track saws, but I made myself guides. They're simple and fun to make, and if you don't have a guide, you've got a skill saw, and you got to have a decent blade or two. You need some guides. So a 3-foot guide is a really good size guide because most doors aren't any bigger than 36. You do have bigger doors. There are 3/6 and 4/0 doors. There are bigger doors, and there are closet doors that are bigger, like bypass closet doors. But generally, a 3-foot guide will serve you because your doors are going to be 36, 32, 30, 28, and 24. 2/0, 2/4, 2/6, 2/8, and 3/0. So making a skill saw cutting guide, you need 3-foot stock, and you need a piece of solid stock is good. MDF is good, but it needs to be straight as an arrow. So you need a piece of 3/4 solid stock or MDF, just straight as an arrow. And this can be three inches. This edge is just really straight. Super straight. Okay? And then the next thing you're going to need, well, you're going to need to know, I think it's 3 3/8 from the wide part. I think it's 3 3/8, but you're going to need from the wide part of the saw, right? This part over to the blade is 3 3/4 approximately. So you need a 4-inch piece, not 3 3/4, 4-inch, something 4-inch or 4 1/4 of 1/4-inch material. 1/4-inch pre-thin plywood. 1/4-inch melamine is the best because it's got a white vinyl. So you're going to take that 1/4-inch, and it's going to be 3 plus 4, so it's going to be 7 inches. It's going to be this 3 inches and at least 4 inches out. My perspective may be getting weird, but and you're going to screw it to your 3-inch guide. The guide that your saw, the widest part of your saw, the furthest away part of the blade, is going to ride. It's going to ride right against that dead straight edge. And the first cut you make, you're going to set that saw, you're going to set it to 3/8 of an inch, so it's going to cut 1/8 inch deeper than that, and you're going to cut exactly what your saw does. So now you made your first cut. Now that edge right there is what your saw cuts. So your saw is guided here. This edge right there is what your saw cuts. So if you've got a door, and you've taken it off and you've laid it on your horses and you've scribed it for carpet and the floor is a little bit out of level, and you got to cut it from say 1/4 to 3/4, and you know you got to go 1/4 to 3/4, and you put a straight line on that, and you just drop this guy so that this edge is right on that line. So there's the 1/4 inch that your saw is writing on, and there's your 3-inch, right? There's your 3-inch piece, there's your 3 piece. And that's the cut it makes. It makes that cut right there, right on the edge of that thing, because that's what you cut off, and that's what your saw with that blade does. And you're able to score along that cut. The base of your saw, which sometimes get dirty, and it's best they're not all that clean. Your work is protected because your base is running along that that 1/4 inch filament. And you can make those in 3/0 and put a hole in them and hang them on a nail. Make them in 3/0, make them in 4 foot, make them in 8 feet. You can. I use it mostly for cutting doors. And don't forget, we haven't done a door cutting clinic here, but when you're cutting a door from carpet, and I got a technique I'll show you to do that too, because that's really worth seeing. It's really a bitching technique. But when you're cutting a door for carpet, when you're cutting this line, right, you need to score them. You need to get that line on, and then you either with your guide, it's a good hard edge, it hasn't been chewed up, or a good straight edge. You need to score it with a knife, with a razor knife. You need to score that, and you also need to score that. You need to score, and if you're coming from this way on the cut, you need to score where you finish at, not so much where you come in. So that's the other thing I want to tell you about the circular saw is that it cuts like this. So the clean cut is as your blade passes through the saw and comes up on the bottom. The bottom is the cleanest part of your cut. And as it comes towards you, that's where you'll get the blowout coming towards you. So that's why you want to score this, because typically your doors are style and rail. And even if they're not style and rail and they're veneered in birch or maple or some other kind of hardwood, you're going to be going across grain and you're going to get that splinter or blowout, which you just sucks totally. So if the door's a style and rail, it's got a bottom rail and a lock rail and it's got a top rail. And you're cutting the bottom off of it. And there's your cut. And you've scored it with a razor knife and you scored it with a razor knife. That way, when you go across the grain of these two styles, you're not going to get blowout, which is just bad. And most doors in clear fur, it blows out horribly. Let's go so if you score it and you use a guide, you won't get blowout. And if you score the end of the cut, you won't get that to blow out, spin around too. Any questions? Any questions at all?
Why don't you make the top rail out of 1/4 inch ply too to maximize the depth of the saw so you can cut like butcher blocks, stuff like that?
The guide 1/4 inch, you'd have trouble. You'd have trouble with 1/4 inch against that edge. 1/2 inch, okay. But 1/4 inch, I think you might ride up it, right? Whereas you want something with some substance because you're going to be taking this thing, right? Going against that. You need to push hard against it. You need to keep it against it. And so something 1/4 inch is too shallow. You might ride up. That's why not 1/4 inch. That's why not 1/4. Plus, try screwing 1/4 to 1/4. It's not going to happen. So you're way more likely to find in your arsenal somewhere a piece of 3/4 stock that you can get that either it doesn't have now, you can joint or get a dead straight edge on. The edge that you want to guide your saw. And it's 3/4 thick, so you can screw a 1/4 inch. And the 1/4 inch is really just so you know, by laying that 1/4 inch on, you know where your saw is going to cut and it protects your work. greatest door cutting. Now, and if you got a track saw, well, that's out the window because the track saw does exactly that. And the track's designed to put that rubber edge right. And that's why they have new edges on the track saws. So when you cut an edge, you cut that clean. And if you do any weirdness, if you get off the track somehow and your blade chingers that edge, same thing here. You know, if you through operator error, you can chinger up this edge. And the minute you chinger up that edge, it's just not as effective. Then you can just drop these screws and put on another piece of 7-inch and rip it. And you got a brand new cutting guide with a brand new piece to protect your work and a brand new clean edge. So your skill saw can you don't need to buy a track saw if you've got good guides for your skill saw. You know, and if you don't have a table saw, you can buy plywoods. With plywoods and sawhorses and good guides and a good blade for your skill saw, for your worm drive. And also, I like these saws too. These are not, they got another name. I can't remember the name right now. They're not worm drive. These guys here.
Sidewinder or something.
Yeah, sidewinders they call them, but they have another different name. But anyway, those are nice for because they're a little bit lighter. The worm drive is more for 2x stuff and framing stuff and things like that. So, any questions before I call it a night for everybody? No questions. Told you about my phone. Let's see, did I check off everything? Oh, you know what? I didn't do that. I'm going to do that next week. I'm going to show you how to case next week. I'm going to use the miter saw and we're going to nail up next week. And I was going to show you the scribe video, but I don't think I will. Is everybody pretty ready to go? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Dying to stay later. Yeah, no, it's kind of a trick question. Not really. So it's been a pleasure, everybody. Be here next week, the 8th, right? And we'll do a midterm prep. I think I'm going to case that out. I really want to show you the scribe video, but I'll go through. We'll spend at least half the class going through midterm prep, just what you can expect on the midterm, and you know, and hopefully answer some questions and give you some idea on the kinds of questions that I'll have for you. And if you weren't here, where you can find them. You know. So, any questions for me now? Anybody? Anybody? I want to make sure I got everybody right. I got Noel came in late. I got. Okay, good.
How was your trip to Pismo?
Oh, dude, I was hoping somebody would ask. It was A+, really. You know, my wife and I have RV'd pretty extensively, and since I sold the business almost 6 years ago. I told you we traveled the country. We did a 25,000-mile trip, a 6-month trip. We've done 45-day trips all those years. We did Utah the month of June last summer, not this summer, this COVID summer, which we were going to do them. We're going to do a month and a half or 2 months in Portland. Next summer, we're going to go to Florida for 2 months. We're going to go down to St. Petersburg. But so we've RV'd a lot, and we've stayed in a lot of places. And we belong to 1,000 Trails, so we pay this one annual fee, and there's 18 parks, and we don't pay anything else but the annual fee. So, but they're camping. There's more dirt. There's more dirt in 1,000 Trails parks. The park we stayed in is RV Sands, Pismo Sands. Yeah, Pismo Sands RV Resort. It was all blacktop and grass. So we have rugs. We have these great big rugs. These indoor-outdoor rugs. We didn't use our rugs because we had this beautiful grass and this great bench. We have pads for the benches and tablecloths and all that stuff. Our fifth wheel has, and I'll video the fifth wheel. I got it back. I'm going to video and show you some stuff in the fifth wheel, but it has nice finish work. It has an island and an entertainment center, fireplace, rocking leather, swiveling recliners, and it's the cat's pajamas. We just love it. And you know, and our awning out, and I've got this thing called the claw for my awning straps, that I got to show you guys, will blow your mind. People see this, they go nuts. The claw that I anchor my awning with, so it kind of gives us this outside room we can leave. We don't care, don't have to worry about the wind. But it's clean, man. This place is really clean. So we played shuffleboard, which I know you probably, some of you are going, really? It's going to come to that? Yeah. Probably eventually it's going to come to shuffleboard. It's going to go from basketball to chess to shuffleboard. So yeah, we played some shuffleboard. My wife and I love to play shuffleboard. We had bocce balls. We were going to play that too. We wound up playing cornhole, which, by the way, a game named cornhole offends me to the core. Just the name. But I'm pretty good at it because I have pretty good high-hand coordination. And man, you know, it is a fun game. It is a fun game. I dropped 3 through and left 1 hanging. That was my best round. Was 3 swishes, just and then because my wife wasn't contributing because she couldn't even hit the damn board, they killed us. They killed us, and I mean they just wiped us out. And the last beanbag, this guy threw. My friend, when we were at their house, they have a house in Oceano. He took this beanbag and he basically threw it about as high as he could throw it. And we all wished it just whoosh, right through the hole. Nothing but net. I mean, just, whew, God, it was unbelievable. I mean, really, it was like, oh, no way. Whoa. So, yeah, we did that. It was my wife's 60th birthday. So we went to Spyglass and put our names on the list. And then we walked along the cliffs to this. We found this restaurant called Marisal and had a pretty good dinner at Marisal. And walked a little bit afterwards, and just it was just lovely, man. I took her down to Avila Pier, to the pier for a crab cocktail one day at Mercy's. If you guys are up there at Avila, I hope to play golf, but decided to spend the time with my wife. She's leaving for 10 days on Monday. Yeah, Monday. Wow. So I'll be back for dinner. So I'll be living here at the shop. Not really. I'll be living at the golf course. But anyway, thank you for asking. We had a fantastic time. It was really, it was different for us because the place was so clean and resorty. I mean, generally, that was $65 a night, you know, which is, it's expensive, but not way expensive for an RV park. County parks are $45 a night, but on 1,000 Trails, my annual fee, typically the amount of camping we do, I pay anywhere from $3 to $6 a night for a full hookup camping. And that's
what kind of RV do you have?
It's a Winnebago 2015 Winnebago Voyage fifth wheel. It's a mid-profile fifth wheel. It's 33 feet. I think it's 12.6 tall. It's 8 foot. They're all 8 foot wide. 33 feet. I'll take a video of it. It's just parked out here. It looks nice and clean. Nice and clean. And
You sleeping in there tonight?
No.
Just right out of the shop into the RV?
Yeah, you know what happens? See, the thing about RVs, if you guys have ever RV'd, RVing gives a whole new meaning to dealing with shit. Yeah, because you got to deal with your shit. You got to deal with your every campsite. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with all of it. So it's, you know, you got to get your chops down in that area.
I drove a ProMaster cross country this summer, and
diesel pusher, a Class A diesel pusher.
it's like a Sprinter van.
Okay.
No, it wasn't diesel, yeah, this guy had totally built it out on the inside. I was returning it back to the East Coast, but I was in Crested Butte for 5 days, and I couldn't believe the like fifth wheel rigs these guys were bringing up dirt roads. It was insane. But that thing was a little easier because it was more compact. It was 18 foot. It didn't have 4-wheel drive, but I wasn't going too far up in the mountains. But man, some of these guys were hauling, like, 25, 30 foot rigs up these, small little dirt roads. It blew my mind.
Yeah. So. It can be crazy, man. Our rig is big. It weighs 7 tons loaded. and it's 33 foot long, and it's like, it's like, geez, there's something huge behind this. What? Oh, yeah, that's right, we're playing trailer. But yeah, people take them insane places, man. Like people take Class A diesel pushers and BLM land and dirt roads for miles and miles,
Yeah. It's a cool
We're
way to
not,
travel.
we're not off-grid type. We really like the comforts of home. That's why we're glampers, man. I mean, I was a backpacker and a camper as a kid. And now I'm a glamper. Give me a fireplace and a kitchen island. I want to have lasagna while I'm camping. I want to bake a chicken. Yeah. I want to make soup and watch DVDs and stream movies. So the problem with Rancho Oso is they have crap Wi-Fi. Their Wi-Fi is horrible. So I got this really expensive thing called a WeBoost. It's a cell phone amplifier. It's a cell phone extender, signal booster. Anyway, did I tell you the story? But it didn't work. No. So it didn't work, right? I went through. It was expensive. It was like $700, and then I paid a guy, and he and I installed it out here and really installed it. Did it right. Got it out there to Rancho Oso. Got it fired up, and it's still I can't get internet. So because I use my phone as a hotspot because their Wi-Fi is so bad, right? So I called the company WeBoost, and I said, "Hey, this doesn't work. It's working. The lights are on, and da-da-da. Yes. It doesn't work." And you know what she said to me? She said, "How far away is your phone that you're using for the hotspot?" And I said, "Well, I leave it, plugged in using the hotspot. It's about, I don't know, it's maybe 15 feet." She said, "When you get back to your trailer," because I called her from the house. "When you get back to your trailer, take your phone and lean it against the inside antenna." Man, it was like 4Gs all the time, stream movies, fast internet. It was like, lean your phone against it. So yeah, that fixed it. And then the last thing I'll tell you is that when we first bought this, I think our maiden voyage was to Casitas Lake, and they have cable. They have park cable. We have a place to. We had cable, right? The guy said, "Hey, this is cable here." The guy showed me, "Hey, we plugged in the cable and we plugged in the cable in the coach, right? And it's just snow." And so the next morning I went over to the camp host and I said to the guy, "Can you help with this TV thing? I can't seem to get the cable to work." And so he said, I'll be over in a half hour. So he comes over and he walks in and I turn on, it's snowing. And the first thing he says to me, and maybe even before he walked in the door, he said, "Do you have a button?" And I said, "What do you mean a button?" He said, "Do you have a button?" Go, "I don't know." So he walks in, he reaches around behind the TV, to the side of the TV, and pushes the button, and it comes in clear as a bell. Because you have to turn off your HD antenna. It won't let cable happen. It's just a little button. Nobody tells you about the button, but what a great fix, huh? Do you have a button? So that's what I ask anybody anymore. If something's wrong, well, is there a button? Too bad. I guess we'll have to fix it the hard way. Anyway, guys, it's always fun. You guys are such a great group. So check Canvas, before next week and see if I put something up. Who knows? Stranger things could happen. I'm still bound determined to do a quiz. I'm glad we're doing this book, and I'm going to do a little more of it. There's some basics in here that are good for us to cover as humans, and I'll try to bring my personality along with it, so we can learn something about life too. Okay. So till next week, you guys are all going to be there, right? I'm going to see all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, you guys too. Yeah. And Jose, I'll never forget you, man. See you later.